Now, there's no doubt about it that by far the most anticipated Star Wars TV show of this year is indeed the Ahsoka Tano series that's really going to propel into the mythology of the franchise. Things like the world between worlds, the netherworld of the Force, and even aspects of characters like Ezra Bridger, Sabine Wren, and even Grand Admiral Thrawn / Era Syndulla. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future Star Wars updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the kind and great support. Now that brings us to exactly what's been going on between Bob Iger and Kathleen Kennedy, and what Bob Iger recently did to cancel Kathleen Kennedy's big plan for the franchise, and exactly where that's really all heading and where that's really all going for the franchise as we speak. Now, we already know that Bob Iger wants her out by August of this year. That's the overall plan between Iger and the board, to get her out as the president of Lucasfilm by August of 2023. Now, we all know that everything related to Star Wars as a whole is about evolving the brand, and that's what John and Dave are focused on. They're basically finding ways to make both Legends and the Disney canon coexist, but really making the Legends portion as accurate as possible as they can to really satisfy the long, awaited hardcore fans that have been waiting for this kind of stuff. So, with that being said and all, what's even all the more exciting about what is going on between Iger and Kennedy has a lot to do with one of her big projects. In fact, one of her own timelines of Star Wars that actually was just cancelled, that was really going to be something that I believe would have really created the final nail in the coffin to the franchise, and to really kind of initiate another backlash if this were to happen. So let's tap right into this. Now, with John and Dave aimed, of course, and getting ready to make big announcements at Celebration, currently Bob Iger, the CEO of Disney, is making drastic changes. Now, just recently, Bob Iger canceled a monumental plan that was put together by Kathleen Kennedy that was greenlit years ago, that has now finally met its end and is clearing up space for the upcoming John and Dave projects. Now, what Iger actually canceled was Kennedy's initial plan to create her own separate Star Wars universe that was going to start off with Rian Johnson's trilogy that would take place in a new galaxy that would expand into multiple spin-off TV shows that were greenlit for Disney Plus from 2024 until 27, that has now all been cancelled and wiped clean from the roadmap. This new universe was set to completely do away with the aesthetics and designs of Star Wars, that was going to focus away from lightsabers, common starfighters, and even do away with the Force, as this timeline was going to be based in the distant future, in which the Force is dead and becomes the Vitality. So let me just pause here quick for a second. Now, the fact that we have someone like Kathleen Kennedy that was going to basically expand Rian Johnson's trilogy that was going to be based in a distant galaxy and in the distant future, well after the Force is no more, well after the Jedi are non-existent at all, and there's no aspects of the light side and the dark side, no lightsabers, no familiar aesthetics of Star Wars at all. This would have been probably the biggest and the worst mistake under Disney had they actually pushed through with this, and I'm glad that Bob Iger came to his senses and finalized this cancellation. In fact, Chapek was in the middle of ripping this all apart and really kind of putting everything to rest, and Rian Johnson's trilogy was the first part. Then, of course, this was going to be the second part. So that's basically what Kennedy was trying to do. She was trying to do what John and Dave were doing, like creating their own massive universe, except hers was going to be very unfamiliar, very distant from everything that you know and love about Star Wars and George Lucas, everything. It would have basically been a glorified sci-fi series with the Star Wars logo slapped on top of it, easily. Now, given that this really does clear away a lot of spaces for the future of the roadmap, with tons of slots available now for those specific years, for John and Dave to work on other TV shows and other movies, etc., that's really going to give fans a lot more of their work instead of Kennedy's, which is great news. Now, the thing about this, too, is that we already know that Kennedy has been trying to get Rian Johnson, believe it or not, to work on a new Star Wars TV show that never ended up happening. It was supposed to happen for The Acolyte, believe it or not, to get him in as a director, but that did not work out. It did not really kind of, stabilize, and it really comes to the fact that nobody really wants Rian Johnson back for the most part in the Star Wars universe. So, further, Kennedy wanted to explore a series of films and TV shows about Star Wars after the Force is no more, and the Jedi and Sith are all forgotten, even as myths and legends. This is something that Iger and the board knew would have been a disaster for the fans, and they recently finalized the cancellation of Kennedy's Star Wars universe. That was going to actually be her big plan to change Star Wars forever. Now, obviously, guys, Kennedy's work is never respected by the fans, and it's something that a lot of fans just don't really care about, let's be honest. We saw what she did with, the sequels, we saw what she did with the Kenobi and Boba Fett shows, and sure, they have their moments. I'm not gonna lie that those projects have good moments, great moments, but thoroughly, from start to finish, entirely, the projects don't really stand up to what Star Wars really used to be. And that's what Jon and Dave are trying to fulfill. And with Mando Season 3's trailer that debuted just yesterday, fans are loving it. Fans are loving what they saw. I'm loving what I saw. Everything. They showed us flavors of all different levels of Star Wars. We got little views of Order 66, Grogu using the Force, Din Djarin with other Mandalorians. I mean, it's beautiful. So, Jon and Dave know what they're doing. They know exactly how to please the audience. Kathleen Kennedy just does not. And in each and every recent interview that she actually took part in, all that she has done was put the fans down. Calling them, of course, names like, overly opinionated or loud or the minority, and just a toxicity in the Star Wars franchise. And that's not really the case when you really think about it. At the end of the day, let's face it, Star Wars is not just a series of films and TV shows. There's a reason why it means more to people than just a media escape. There's something special about it because it uses real-world aspects and really kind of borrows elements from different mythologies, and because it relates to so many different people. And that's what Kennedy's trying to strip away. How you could relate to the characters and the storytelling and the plot elements in those projects. So overall, guys, I think that Bob Iger made the right call here. He finally did something worthy, and something that I think is really going to only clear way for better opportunities to be performed by Jon and Dave, and they really are on a roll. So, guys, I'm very intrigued to see what you guys have to say about this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
Gun in hand, we are alone again. No, I'm not the one. From night to moon, we hear them moans again. No.